radio is broadcast on LSL Podcast Channel. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to the channel.
Donald Trump now under attack by the left wing for not having proper empathy for the fallen, our bravest, our heroes. You're listening to the Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA, broadcasting from our beautiful, beautiful affiliate here in Las Vegas, where we're still at Vegas Strong. And the aftermath of the city, the shooting, they're stronger than ever. And I have to say, our friends at KDWN have been filling us in on just how amazing this city has been and how they've never seen people come together like they came together after this mass shooting, and still feeling it. We have updates on that. Turns out the security guard who went missing after he was scheduled to be on 5 television shows is showing up on
Ellen DeGeneres this afternoon.
Why is he choosing to go on Ellen? Maybe he just likes Ellen.
I don't know. It was either that or Dr. Oz. I guess he chose.
So, I mean, Steve
Ellen.
Harvey could have gone on Steve Harvey.
Or he could have gone on with Dr. Phil and talked about what it felt like as he walked down the hall.
No, that was
overcoming anxiety.
So that's just another odd turn in this
that
story.
Jesus Campos, very strange.
There was, we don't know. We don't know. There was stuff online yesterday about his immigration status. We haven't had a chance to track that down.
Well, the stories I've read is if Mandalay Bay hired an illegal, it would invalidate some of the insurance claims at the Mandalay Bay, and that's a problem.
Oh, so they wouldn't get covered.
Right. There's a clause that invalidates their coverage. So that's why that's an important question. Now, whether they get into it on Ellen, I don't know. But it'll be a dance-off, maybe.
Now, Ellen will be like, so how much do you hate President Trump? Well, when you were coming down the hall and you were so courageous, how much were you hating Trump right at that minute? And when the shooter shot through the door and shot at you, how much at that point did you wish it was President Trump instead of you? I mean, just all these people just can't stand Trump. The whole entertainment complex is beyond anti-Trump. So anyway, he's going there, and we'll find out more. But back to this widow story. How many of you think that Donald Trump doesn't feel real heartache over the reports that are always they're the worst calls you get and the worst notifications you get as president? Every president has said this, and I believe everyone saying it. Hearing that another American has died, whether in a place like Somalia or in a place like Afghanistan or anywhere in between, it's a horrific call to get. Now, who knows what President Trump said in the car? We don't know.
Well, let's tell the full story. During that presser the other day at the press conference, the president said, look,
go back and play
I'm the first president to call all the service people who die in the line of duty. I feel I have to do that. I don't know what other presidents did.
He misstated that.
But that's what I did.
Yeah, he misstated that. He made a comment that other presidents don't do it like he does it. Like, in other words, Obama and Bush didn't call.
And he was partially right, because Obama, at least in the case of General Kelly, the chief of staff at the White House, he did not call.
Yeah, but he did call other Gold Star families.
But he didn't call General Kelly.
Yeah.
And so Trump had one piece of evidence to support his assertion, so he ran with it. Now you have this Representative Frederica Wilson.
Then they decided to go after him for that. So Trump opened the door there, and then the Trump haters, and in the case of Frederica Wilson, I will say the Tea Party haters. She said back in 2011, the real enemy is the Tea Party. This is that nut with the hat. She wears that cowboy hat with like she's rhinestones.
She's kind of a rhinestone Maxine Waters.
Exactly. He didn't remember that. Yeah, so she said, we'll go to the third. Do we have the Wilson, the third soundbite? Okay, let's listen.
You're in the car with Ms. Johnson there. The president calls. It goes up on speakerphone. And what did you hear from the president?
Well, exactly what you said, but that's not the worst part. She was crying the whole time, and when she hung up the phone, she looked at me and said, he didn't even remember his name. That's the hurting part.
Well, did they ask him if he remembered his name? This just, and then she went on to say this. Let's listen.
The line that you recounted from the president saying that Sergeant Johnson knew what he was getting into when he signed up. What was the tone and the tenor from the president in those particular comments?
He was almost like joking. He said, well, I guess you knew something to the fact that he knew what he was getting into when he signed up, but I guess it hurts anyway. You know, just matter-of-factly, that this is what happens. Anyone who is signing up for military duty is signing up to die.
No, that's not what happened. And at that point, one of the rhinestones fell off her hat.
That cowboy hat. It looks like one of those little cowboy hats that you buy at a Chuck E. Cheese. You know, like when the kid throws enough skeet balls, he gets a little rhinestone cowboy hat.
But here's Glenn Campbell.
But here's the story.
Moment.
Frederica Wilson, this congresswoman from Miami, is in the car.
She's a virulent Tea Party hater. Let's make that clear. Let us remember who the real enemy is. The real enemy is the Tea Party. The Tea Party holds the Congress hostage. She said this to CBS 4 News Miami. That's just one of the nicer things she said about conservatives. She hates President Trump, and she's going to put it in the worst possible light. I imagine knowing Donald Trump, what he probably said is, it's so hard, you know, it's just probably, I know how hard it is, and obviously he knew what he was getting into. Like he knew, not that he knew he was going to die, but when you sign up for the military, you know you're putting your life on the line. And that's not a bad thing to say to someone, but he probably said, but I know it probably doesn't make it any easier. That's what I bet he said, something like that. But let's explain to you why this is really being done. Why the question was asked in the Rose Garden, why it was followed up on today on MSNBC, and why CNN then ran with it, okay? They did this, again, to put Trump on the defensive, to get him back on his heels. We have a stock market at 23,000. We have an almost unprecedented economic run for the last 10 months, considering he hasn't been able to get one major piece of legislation through. He has now worked with the Democrats on lifting the debt ceiling. He has already used his Article 1 powers to try to invigorate this insurance marketplace with some competition. He has put Neil Gorsuch on the court. He's given a lot of attention and care to social conservatives on the Mexico City policy, on the contraception mandate, broadening the religious exemption for that. And he has lined up dozens and dozens of phenomenal nominees for the federal courts. So he's done all that. Could he have done more? Absolutely. Should he have done more? Yeah, I guess, yeah. But he's making real progress, even with a Congress that hasn't been able to get its act together. They can't cover that. They don't want to cover that. And who believes that the media give one whit? Most of these media people flapping their gums about how Trump doesn't have any compassion. How many of them really covered 2 weeks ago the ambush that occurred in Africa where we lost 4 of our special forces? How many of you? I'm pretty sure either I tweeted about it. I saw it in the middle of the night. I think the first time I saw it for some reason was in the middle of the night on one of my sleepless nights, and I woke up and it was an odd story. One of the, I think Sergeant Davis was missing for 48 hours. I'm like, where is he? Like, why do we not know where he is? Why didn't they have more cover? What were they doing where they were? They were obviously on some type of special mission.
Mm-hmm.
But so the White House didn't immediately discuss this. And I understand they didn't immediately discuss this in a long form way. Okay. But neither did the media. The media weren't covering this. They're not really looking into what's happening with al-Shabaab in Africa. No, they're too busy trying to unpack the tone and tenor of Donald Trump in talking to a widow in a car. This is what the media is all about. This is why Hannity calls it the Get Trump media. They are the Get Trump media. And none of us know what happened on that phone call, but I can tell you this. I'd love to put Frederica Wilson on the stand, and I would impeach her credibility in about 30 seconds. She is a virulent Trump hater and a Tea Party hater and a conservative hater. She has every right. She doesn't agree with President Trump. That's fine. But don't hold her out as some paragon of credibility and an objective observer as to what happened. 855-40-LAURA. Absolutely makes me sick. And by the way, you know why I believe they're also harping on this issue? This call is because Trump has won on the NFL issue. I don't care if the NFL owners are deciding that they're not going to require the players to stand, which came out of their big meeting yesterday. They're afraid of those players. Mm-hmm. NFL owners are afraid of the players. So they said they're not going to force them to stand. Donald Trump again got back into this morning on Twitter, saying basically it's a disgrace. Stand for the anthem. It's a disgrace. He's right on that too. He is with the people on that issue. They can't talk about the substance. On the substance, generally Trump is doing well and he's winning on the substance. But on these matters of phone calls, tone, tenor, did he say he knew what he was getting into? What? 855-40-LAURA. How many of you give much credibility to the woman who walks around with a rhinestone cowboy hat that looks like it came from Dolly Parton's, costume closet? Now she wears like a green one, and she's trying to play Maxine Waters for the. She's a combo of Maxine Waters and Sheila Jackson Lee. She's very. I mean, I'm all for colorful dressing, but it looked like you came out of a carnival. This woman's a nutbag.
She also has said Trump is on the brink of impeachment.
Oh,
she's on one of these.
She's always on a tear about impeachment. So she wants Trump impeached, and now she's flapping her mouth about what happened in the car. I don't think the president should take this bait. I think he should stay on the issues, get off these issues. You're not going to win, just like you don't win with Khizr Khan, the Gold Star father at the Democratic National Convention. I don't think you're going to win an argument on this, although he said he has proof in a tweet that Frederica Wilson is lying. He said he has proof, meaning they recorded that call. State Department probably does call. The Defense Department might record these calls. So we'll see if we have a. I'm not sure we want to hear the calls, the private calls from the president to the wife of a slain soldier. This is private conversations. By the way, when we come back, this cowboy-hatted Wilson was pressed by Katty Kay on MSNBC. We'll bring that to you, and it was actually pretty good. Katty Kay tried to put her up against the wall. The woman has no credibility. I've been telling you for weeks that we need men and women like you to enlist in our nationwide campaign to pressure Congress to pass the tax cuts that we voted for when we elected Donald Trump to drain the swamp in Washington. Here's the good news. Hundreds of thousands of you have already gone to taxcutsnow.com and signed up. But we still need more signatures to ratchet up the pressure on Congress. The average tax cut under the Trump plan is over $2,000 per family. That may not be real money in Washington, but it's real money to you. Money you can spend on the things you care about. And if you haven't yet signed on, please take less than a minute to join our cause. And then share the link to taxcutsnow.com with your family, friends, church members, and coworkers. Send a message to Washington that business as usual will not cut it. Senator McConnell and Speaker Ryan need to hear from you loud and clear. You want your tax cuts, and you want them now, not next year, this year. Go to taxcutsnow.com. That's taxcutsnow.com. At that, Congresswoman Frederica Wilson's third rhinestone fell off the brim of her white cowboy hat with psychedelic trim. This is really a low point. This is a low point for the media and the press. I mean, come on. Frederica Wilson has any shred of credibility in describing a private conversation. She is a sworn enemy, in her words, of the Tea Party and is leading the charge to impeach Donald Trump. She repeatedly says Donald Trump is on the brink of impeachment. And the press, they're just using her. They don't care about her. They don't care about, I think a lot of these people don't care about these soldiers in Africa. They're only using the soldier's death to criticize Trump. Now, if the president misstated how other presidents comforted the widows of slain soldiers, then he should correct himself. And I'm not sure why he would feel the need to discuss what Obama or Bush did. I don't think that is helpful at all to President Trump. I think if I were President Trump, I would merely say it's one of the most heartbreaking moments of any president's day is when they learn that we've lost another hero. And the call you have to make to the families is just as equally heartbreaking. I mean, he's a father, and you think of yourself losing a child, and it's or a husband or a wife, and it's a heartbreak. They just leave it at that. I wouldn't go back and forth, and you're tweeting about Frederica Wilson, and she's lying, but when he's attacked, he smashes back. I mean, he just can't. He can't let it lie. He will not let it lie. 855-40 Laura. Chris in Florida. Go ahead. Do we have Chris there?
Hi, Laura. Chris. Yeah. Hey, Laura. Here. Had interactions with.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
Can
we
you hear
seem
me
to
now?
have a delay. Hey, Chris, we're gonna fix the delay because I think we have a delay because we're in Vegas and our folks are in D.C. So let's fix that delay. But when we come back, you'll have plenty of time to tell your story because Chris lost his son Joshua. He's a Gold Star father, and he was, he's had a chance to meet President Trump, and just his own personal experience and being comforted by the commander-in-chief. It's a heartbreak, but we'll hear from him when we'll take a break. 855-40 Laura. Who's coming up on the show? I don't know. I don't have my guest list handy, so I can't figure it out. Steve Moore. Steve Moore, of course, is going to talk to us about the president's tax reform plan and whether this is going to be another fight on the right, influencing the lives of kindergartners through, seniors in high school. Probably not. You think Hillsdale is a college or not? Well, I guess what? They're doing that. They're improving young lives at Hillsdale College through all of their great work in founding more than a dozen charter schools nationwide, with more opening every single year. And they provide curricula, they train their faculty, they offer support, offer advice. And then get this, Hillsdale does not take one penny for these services. They do it for free. It's called the Barney Charter School Initiative. It's funded entirely by the great donors to Hillsdale College. And you know that Hillsdale College education, it gives graduates as a real understanding of the critical task at hand, which is to preserve our liberty and the love of country, which is frankly being eroded all across the country. So learn more about the important work that Hillsdale is doing from K to 12 at lauraforhillsdale.com. A video there will show you how Hillsdale is building character in children all across the country. Remember, no government money goes to Hillsdale. It's all great donors like you. Go to lauraforhillsdale.com. Well, it's pretty beautiful. The stock market is already up 112 points at the open. Hit 23,000. It's at 23,110. If you put your money in the Dow Jones or the S&P on election day, you would be 30% up on your money. That's amazing. Joining us in just a moment is Steve Moore. We're going to talk more about the tax plan and whether or not they're going to be able to get this through. But we have to finish up with Chris, who is a Gold Star dad. His son Joshua lost his life serving his country in Operation Iraqi Freedom. And Chris, just go ahead and tell your story, given the criticism of Donald Trump today in his conversation with a Gold Star wife.
I've had the privilege 3 occasions to meet with the president, honestly. Twice before the election, he sought out Gold Star families in Jacksonville and Tampa to find out what our stories. And it was inspiring to see someone simply listen. Such a difference just to be present in my world with a Gold Star family. And then June 5th, I had the honor to be a part of 51 Gold Star families the White House recognized and memorialized, and everyone in the administration was there they showed as much or more respect in any event I've ever been to. He cares deeply, and I could see it in firsthand, face-to-face contact.
Chris, how old was your son Joshua when he died?
He was 29, and he never saw his 30s. He would have been 40 his last birthday.
Well, I am so sorry for your loss. I know it hurts every day. The pain does not go away. I mean, you just deal with it. I find it so sad, and I'm putting it charitably, that the pain of Gold Star families is being politicized by anybody, left or right. It shouldn't be. And, I mean, I know President Trump pretty well, and the idea that he would be laughing, as Congresswoman Wilson claimed, that he was casual in talking to this Gold Star widow. Her husband, Sergeant Davis, was one of the 4 men killed in that ambush 2 weeks ago in Africa. And she said, Chris, that the Congresswoman said that she thought the president kind of was laughing it off, saying, well, he knew what he was getting into, and she claimed he didn't even know his name. Does that, just in your interaction with President Trump, does that sound on the mark, or?
Close. He looked at us across the table and said, honestly, does it ever get better? And my answer has always been, it never gets better, it gets different. And sometimes things can make a big difference. In my experience, the president, and not just the president, the vice president, his staff respected us so much. That made a big difference.
Well, I would say that General Kelly has a little credibility on this issue, don't you think? I mean, he's a Gold Star father himself, and he wasn't called by President Obama. And I don't, I imagine General Kelly, he deals with his pain every day. But he probably doesn't dwell on the fact that President Obama didn't call him. He's serving his country. And, Chris, I appreciate your telling Joshua's story, and more apt for this conversation, your interaction with President Trump. Until Chris said that, I had forgotten about that Gold Star event, Raymond. That was 50 families that came to the White House. Well, Obama had celebrities in and out for the first 6 months. Remember, they kept having those big concerts with Paul McCartney and Stevie Wonder, and they kept doing, the cast of Hamilton, and they had plenty of the celebrities. Trump hasn't had too many celebrities, has he, in the first 10 months? Well, they don't like Trump. That's okay. Joining us now is Steve Moore. Steve is an economic advisor of sorts to the president, of course, visiting fellow for the Project of Economic Growth at the Heritage Foundation. And he joins us now, and he's been following this tax reform push very closely. Heritage has been all over it, and the president spoke at Heritage yesterday on taxes, and it was a terrific speech, well received. He joins us now. Steve, great to talk to you. How you doing?
Hi, Laura. How do you like Dow 23,000? It's amazing, isn't it?
Oh, my gosh.
We started at 18,000 when the day Trump was elected. It's 23,000. I keep thinking back to Paul Krugman, the famous left-wing economist at the New York Times, who was asked the day after the election when the stock market would recover, and he said never. Now we got the biggest bull market expansion ever. We've got the economy. I mean, look, every single indicator right now, Laura, every single one is pointing north. It's amazing. The consumer confidence numbers, the number of Americans employed gained 800,000 last month. We have had, we had 3.1% GDP growth. And by the way, all these left-wing economists who I have to do battle with on CNN, Trump is lying. We can never get to 3% growth. We're already at 3% growth. We haven't even passed the tax cut yet. So there's something big going on in this economy. And boy, if we get this tax cut passed, Laura, I think we can get the rates of growth we had under Reagan. Twice, 2 to 3 times faster than we grew under Obama.
I remember on election night at the Hilton, Steve, which is the gathering place for all the Trump supporters, looking at the returns. And as it looked more likely, as the night was going on, it looked more likely that Trump was going to win. Remember how the futures were dropping? The futures dropped like 500 points at one point.
Do you know why that happened, Laura?
Why?
Because this is a story that's not well told. I've talked to a lot of people who are, experts on the markets. And so the reason the stock market futures fell at about 9 and 10 o'clock at night as it looked more and more likely that Trump was going to win was not because the stock market didn't want Trump. What happened was that Hillary was refusing. Remember on that night, she was refusing to come out and concede the election.
To concede.
And what? Remember that?
To concede. Yeah.
Yeah. So investors were worried that there would be a contested election, that the liberals would never concede, and that this would go on for months and months, as it did in 2000. And once Hillary conceded, Laura, then the market went up 800 points.
I mean, I just remember telling my guy, buy, and like a couple months later, I realized he never bought anything. He said, "I thought you were joking." Suffice it to say, he's no longer my financial advisor.
That was a bad call.
Yeah, that was a really bad call. Is this Stephanie Rule? I don't know who. I have a sheet that says Rule. I don't know who. Is it Stephanie Rule from MSNBC? I need the names, please. So Stephanie Rule from MSNBC was bad-mouthing the president's plan. Let's listen.
It's either a very, very aggressive, hopeful plan, or as Paul Krugman or Larry Summers would say, it simply doesn't make any sense, and it's not true. There is no direct link to cutting corporate taxes and then paying people more. Have you ever seen when there was a corporate tax break, your employer say, well, today you're going to get a bonus
who gets the money?
For our tax break? It doesn't exist.
Your reaction?
Well, where to start with that? I mean, let's start with, when the stock market does better, when the stock market is up by, something like 6,000 points since Trump was elected. It's not just rich people who get richer. Everyone does better, because think about this, Laura. Every single pension fund in America, every one, the state and local pensions, the federal pensions, your pension, my pension, everyone listening to the show has an IRA, a pension fund, a 401k, does better. So this wealth gain benefits everyone. That's unquestionable. Number two, how many people are employed by companies that are going bankrupt? I mean, companies employ people when they're doing better, not worse. This is the whole idea behind the tax cut. We want American companies to do better. We are pro-business administration. I say we because I worked for Trump during the campaign. He wants to be pro-worker and pro-business. And the problem with modern-day liberalism, frankly, is that liberals want to be pro-jobs, but they're anti-business. I mean, it just doesn't work. You can't have jobs, folks, without businesses. You can't have jobs without employers. And if employers aren't making a profit, guess what? They can't hire more workers. I mean, why is it so hard for liberals to connect those dots?
I have a question. Did this tax proposal go far enough in your mind? I would have liked to seen rates come down even more.
Yeah. So my one disappointment, and my buddy Larry Kudlow and yours, the two of us helped Trump put the original plan together, and one of the things Trump insisted on. Two things he insisted upon during, when we were devising this with Trump. Number one, he kept saying 15%, Laura, 15%. That's what I want.
He wanted it. They wouldn't go for it. He was
the last person in the White House who wanted 15%. It reminds me of let Reagan be Reagan. I mean, let Trump be Trump. And the other thing that he always insisted upon, Laura, is that when we cut these business tax rates, it's not just for corporations. It's going to be every small business man and woman in America. And there's 27 million of those. So the press never talks about that, by the way. The auto repair shop owner who has 12 employees, or the person who runs the corner grocery store that employs 15 people, those companies are going to get a tax cut too. And I got to tell you, I travel around this country, and when I ask people, what are you going to do, who own businesses, and they say, I'm going to put that money back in the business. I'm going to hire another employer. I'm going to purchase another truck or a piece of machinery or something like that. Laura, I had dinner the other night with Fred Smith, who's the CEO of FedEx, one of the great companies in American history. You know, he employs 100,000 people, 100,000.
Wow.
And he said to me, Steve, he said, I'm already a billionaire. You know, this tax cut isn't for me. I already have my $1 billion. He said, you give us that tax cut. He said, we're going to, in the next few weeks, we're going to, months after this tax cut, we're going to purchase 50 new planes, hundreds and hundreds of new trucks and vehicles. I mean, think about the jobs impact of that. And that's one company.
Well, and I was watching, I was reading a piece about what was happening today in China, and there was a big speech by, I guess, one of their economic leaders. I don't have it in front of me, unfortunately, but here it is. No, it's Xi Jinping, excuse me, who was heralding a new era of Chinese power in which his country is a mighty force. The speech went on for about 3 hours, but they do have the largest standing army in the world. They are expanding their economic power in every continent. I have friends who have property or had property in Zimbabwe. They were telling me the story about what China is doing there, and it's terrifying. China sees what's happening with our economy, but they want they're surging as well.
You know who doesn't want the United States to cut its corporate income tax? Germany doesn't want it. Canada doesn't want it. I was on Ireland public radio the other day. As you may know, Ireland has the lowest corporate tax rate in the world at 12.5%. So I was in Dublin a couple of years ago. Every other company you see in Dublin, which is booming, is an American company that's moved there because they can cut their taxes by 2/3. And the Irish are terrified that Trump is going to cut the American tax rate because they understand what none of our liberal politicians understand. You cut that tax rate to 15 or 20%. Those companies are coming back to America. They're coming back here, and China is terrified of it too because,
they want to keep them. They just want all the. They want the money, American money over there. They want the American manufacturing over there.
Yep.
They want to keep it all there, and China became very rich from our bad tax policy and our bad trade policy. Steve Moore, great to have you on a big day. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll take a break on the Laura Ingraham Show, close out this hour. I'll tell you about my driver this morning and his musical past. There'll never be another one like him. Of course, the famed, the iconic legend in guitar playing. We were driving to the studio this morning here in Las Vegas, and the driver is an older guy, funny. You could tell he was kind of was he a New Yorker? Was he Rochester? From Rochester. He said, I was a musician.
Gino.
Bobby Gino. He said, I'm a musician. I said, oh, really? I'm thinking, okay, I can't wait to hear the story. He played with Les Paul at the Iridium. And he also was very close friends with Patsy Cline. He's lived here for 60 years. He's a guitarist for Wayne Newton. He toured Europe with that America Superstars event with Michael Jackson, and the guy was amazing. But Les Paul, he could just stop at Les Paul.
Yeah, at the Iridium in New York, where Paul held court every Monday night.
Oh, amazing! Only in Vegas. Chris and I were watching Rachel Maddow the other night because I enjoy watching her every now and then. I mean, I'm locked on Hannity on the kitchen TV, and then on the family room I go watch Maddow. And I do find her, I think she does a good show for her. But if you're a liberal, you got to watch Maddow. But my goodness, I felt so bad for her because she had this horrific allergy. And when Raymond, you get bad allergies. Terrible
allergies.
And so
it does make you foggy. You don't know where you are, and you're
foggy.
not.
Chris has allergies. I had allergies one year, really, really badly, and I've never had them since.
I get them in May. I get them in October.
The worst. I mean, and you go outside, and your eyes just start watering. But she's on television, and she was on a remote somewhere. I think she might have been in Boston. And can you remind me of this? All my friends and producers. She's a little younger than I am, but I don't want a tight shot on me on remotes when I'm doing TV. It's like back it up to Hoboken.
Yeah, exactly.
Back that
How
lens
far do you
up.
want it up?
Put the Vaseline on the lens. I want the Barbara Walters lens on me. I want it all fuzzy. Why is Laura looking fuzzy, Mommy?
It's the cataract. The cameraman's cataract.
But she was up against one of those green screens was behind her, and it was too tight. It was too close. Normally, she has a good distance. She looks good, but she was too tight, and the poor thing had terrible allergies, bloodshot eyes, and she just We want to hear more shorts from James from that because we thought it was very funny, and I think that was the best Rachel Maddow I have seen in a long time.
I feel like if you got them when like you were 8, you figured out how to deal with them and how to anticipate them.
But I just can't do it. And so we're sitting here in the studio, KDWN, our great affiliate here in Las Vegas, which is Vegas strong. And we're sitting here going, okay, we need a song, we need a song, we need a song. Only Raymond Arroyo would be able to come up with a Barbra Streisand. I want to hear more of that.
Oh, my gosh, like the 70s, 78, 79.
It was good, though.
Something like that.
Who wrote this?
Kander and Ebb.
Oh, great writing.
Kander and Ebb.
No.
This may have been an old song that Fanny Bryce actually sang, but Kander and Ebb wrote a lot of the songs for that particular movie.
It kind of makes you in a fun mood. But this is a long-winded way of saying only Raymond Arroyo would know a song that would go with allergies. I'm trying to find a Rachel song.
It's a tall order.
And I'm thinking allergies. And then 15 seconds before we go to air, cold in my nose, funny lady. And James is on the board, like trying to put everything in. James like, well, I might be able to get it. He's scrambling.
Well, my first thought was the Guys and Dolls song, A Person Could Develop a Cold, which is an old song.
A person could develop a cold?
A person could develop a cold about a girl who can't get married.
Can you sing a few bars?
No, it's too early and I've been up too late.
Oh, no.
But maybe another time.
Okay, so
another song from Leonard Bernstein. Some other time.
Other time. So we rolled into Vegas last night at 11:30. What time was it, Elisa? 11:30? I don't know. Does Lisa's mic even work? Her mic doesn't even work. Oh my gosh. Poor Lisa has no mic.
Hi, Laura.
Hi.
I think it felt like 11:30, but it was actually 9.
9?
Yeah.
How is it then we didn't get to sleep until, because the time difference. So it was midnight. It was 9 o'clock this time, but midnight East Coast time.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, we land in Vegas. Elisa has never been to Vegas. So we're just like, okay, what are we going to do? We're going to go right to sleep? No way. So I said, let's go to the Bellagio. So we go right to the Bellagio. And, of course, Raymond, who you have to feed every few hours or he gets grumpy, Raymond says, let's eat. And I said, okay, it's midnight. We have to get up for the show at 6 a.m. Vegas time.
Eat something light.
And Raymond says, eat something light. So we go to a restaurant, and it was right in the casino area.
The Bellagio Cafe.
And so,
which had very good food.
And we were already in breakfast mode because it felt like morning, because it was the morning. Basically, it was 12:30 in the morning.
Right.
So then we get breakfast croissant. What did you get, Raymond? This is fascinating.
I had my egg white omelet.
Oh, no, he's always eating like a bird. He eats like a bird.
Oh, yeah, I eat like a bird. This is a woman who has like 2 pretzels, and that's lunch.
Well, we didn't have any
on a plane.
Don't even talk about the fact that we had no food all day yesterday. And so,
I did.
We had our breakfast sandwich. At least I got sandwiches with I love breakfast sandwiches. Let me just say, I love a good croissant egg sandwich with croissant, real bacon, not Canadian. Don't like Canadian, like real crispy bacon.
This is scintillating radio, but go ahead.
And no, but this is called storytelling, okay? And I'm tired.
I
don't want any recriminations. And I think they used American cheese, which I know is not really cheese. It was good.
My favorite part is that waitress said, "Oh, don't worry, it's really light." And then the plate came. It's like 10 pounds of food.
Yeah, no, that thing was a mound.
Said, in what world is this light?
She said it's light, and it was like it's a greasy croissant, like dripping with grease, and a mound of hash browns.
And
I'm thinking, where's James? I said I'm bringing James to Vegas, and I felt bad that James wasn't with us because he'd have fun. James, you love Vegas, though, right? You've been here.
I've been there one time, and I can tell you, I absolutely had a blast. A beautiful city.
No, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. So then we finish our food. At this point, I'm like, okay, we're just gonna go to the roulette table, and we're gonna put money down on numbers that a certain friend of mine said he wanted. I bet lost $50 in 2 seconds. Okay. Number 17 came up, which I was going to pick, and I didn't. We lost that, and I said, okay, let's go over to the blackjack table because that's the only one I occasionally can win anything on. I still don't understand craps. If you guys love craps and you play it, can you call in and explain it to me? Habib has tried to explain this to me for about 20 years. I still can't figure it out. I don't get craps. I never will. I don't get it. But the people, they're so into craps table. They're into that. But we can't find a table that's less than $100. I'm sorry, I'm not going to lose $500 in 5 seconds at blackjack. So finally we find a $25 table. I go to the ATM, because I had no cash. Go to the ATM, $7.99 fee to get your cash. I'm like, there it goes. Okay, $7.99, there we go. And lo and behold, we ended up winning. I think in the end we won $100, and then this is the first time in Vegas I've ever won any money. I think in the end I won $50, and we left. Here's the key: leave
when you're winning.
There were two men at the table with us, and I think they wanted us gone because when we came, we ruined their luck. They started losing everything. He's doubling down. He's like splitting the eights.
And that's when I turned to Laura and I said, Laura, let me stop you because you're winning too much. Yeah. Please stop winning.
I never
so
get
much.
tired. You'll never get tired of winning. We're going to win so much, you're going to get sick of it. So we left. We go to sleep, sort of. I'm on the top floor of this hotel we're in. Top floor, and it has a balcony. And it wraps all the way like 3-4 walls. The room is larger than the house I just moved out of. The room is giant. It goes on. You go into one room, then a next. I had to drop breadcrumbs to find the bedroom. You had to go 1, 2. Beautiful room. Beautiful. It took me 5 minutes to find the tower where it was, but that's all right. We got up there. And I go outside on the balcony, and I'm looking at the Bellagio from beautiful. It's a beautiful night. I'm here when it's hot usually. It's beautiful. And then the door closes behind me.
Oh, no.
And I'm out on the balcony, and my heart I'm like, oh, my, and it slams shut. And I tried to, and I don't have my phone with me. I try to jimmy the door. The door doesn't open.
Oh.
And instinctively I scream, help, from the balcony. Help. And I'm like, I'm rattling the door. I was doing it the wrong way. You have to pull it really hard to the left because the way it closed, you had to pull it really hard to the left, then push out. It wasn't a slider, and so I was able to get back into my room. But I panicked. I completely panicked out on that balcony. No, I panicked.
You were gonna have to climb to the next balcony.
No. This is a 25th floor. I'm not going to Spider-Man it out to the next balcony. It was scary. But then, of course, I thought about the horrible shooting too. I mean, I felt being up there and the evil and the depravity of that shooter and the unanswered questions that still exist.
Oh, well, Jesus Campos, though, I'm
just going to ask the question. It seems like a very interesting person, and he was heroic.
Yeah, he was the security guard who first encountered the shooter
and he
was shot
reported
at.
it right away. So
right.
He is heroic. Is he in the country legally or not? Can anyone determine that? Is he legally in the United States?
Well,
I mean,
I don't think Ellen's going to ask the question.
I don't care.
Today.
He's a hero, and for someone like him, I'm willing to give him amnesty because what he did and tried to do. But Ellen, I don't know why he's going on Ellen. I don't get that.
She won't ask that question.
She won't ask that. Good point. Maybe she's going to have a sanctuary show. Maybe it will be a sanctuary show. That's actually a good point. She would do that. She despises Trump, too. Remember when Michelle did push-ups with Ellen? Remember she did the push? Remember that stories about the arms and her biceps, triceps? I'm sorry I went off on the breakfast sandwich, but it was tasty. All right, we'll take a break on the Laura Ingraham Show. 855-40-LAURA. Coming up, Victoria Tensing, acclaimed attorney in Washington, D.C., is going to tell us the scoop on how the Obama administration held back testimony from a federal investigator who had learned about the Russia bribery in the nuclear industry in the United States and the money that ended up getting funneled to the Clinton Foundation. Vicki will tell us what she knows. Do you dread going to the mailbox this time of year? Well, if you're a timeshare owner, I know you do. Another year, another maintenance fee bill that increased, or maybe you've received an additional special assessment this year, too. It's like throwing thousands of dollars down the drain. Well, for the past 6 years, my friends at resortrelease.com have been helping timeshare owners put an end to those timeshare maintenance fees. They'll help you legally and permanently terminate that timeshare contract and end all future payments guaranteed. They've even earned an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. So go to resortrelease.com and call them at 855-66-LAURA. Resortrelease.com gives every customer a 100% guarantee that lets you legally and permanently walk away from that timeshare. And if you don't get out of the timeshare contract, you do not pay a dime. 2018's maintenance fee bills will arrive any day, so get out now before you pay that fee. Visit resortrelease.com or call them at 855-66-LAURA to see if you qualify. Back on the Laura Ingraham Show here in Las Vegas at our great affiliate, KDWN. It's always wonderful to be here. We are treated like we don't deserve, frankly, kings and queens in Vegas. And we had a great time last night. Lots of laughs already. And only in Vegas will you have a driver who was close friends with Patsy Cline and played with Les Paul and Wayne Newton and toured Europe with Wayne Newton and others. Unbelievable. The story that is rocking me today, and we posted it up on lauraingraham.com, is what The Hill broke about how the DOJ blocked an FBI undercover testimony on the Russia bribery extortion probe under Eric Holder's Justice Department. Of course, we're talking about Barack Obama's approval of the Uranium One deal and what happened in the lead up to that. Joining us now is Vicki Tenson, who is one of my old friends, a phenomenal lawyer in person and human being. And she actually represents the undercover agent who was not allowed to tell his story to Congress. And she joins us now. Vicki, first of all, great to talk to you, my friend. Tell us what we need to know, what the Laura Ingraham Show listeners across the country need to know about this issue.
I want to, but I just want to say congratulations on your show. Joe and I have been saying for over a year that you should be in that slot. So, congrats.
Thank you. You're going to come on. You're going to come on regularly if I have anything to say about it.
I have this client who 2009, was under contract to a Russian entity in the United States, 10X. And then after he signed the contract, he was asked to give bribe money to people, and that bothered him. He's a great American, and he went into the FBI and said, my gosh, here's what's going on. And they asked him to work for them and to record all these kinds of meetings and all kinds of monies that were being deposited here and there all over Europe and the Mideast. And he did so. That started in 2009, and the approval by CFIUS, that alphabet soup that approves whether the uranium company could be purchased by Russia, CFIUS, CFIUS, approved the contract for purchase in October 2010. And guess who sat on that? Guess who sat on that board? Hillary
Clinton.
And Eric Holder. This is at that time. And the people, not only my client who was working undercover, was aghast. Like, this is going on. Didn't anyone tell CFIUS? And he had people in the bureau say to him, this is politics. Something's happening up above. Anyway, the purchase went through. And, by the way, Laura, in June of 2010, Bill Clinton made a speech in Russia, paid for by a company that has former KGB agents working for it. And he got, I'm sure this is close to your speaking fee, $500,000 for the speech for an hour. And 4 months later,
money also went to the Clinton Foundation from the Russian nuclear industry, correct?
Millions from all kinds of people who were involved who made money off of the purchase. So a few years later, my client, there was a slight criminal case, a slap on the hand in 2014. In 2016, my client was upset because nobody knew really the whole story, and the FBI had told him to pay part of his salary to these people, and he was entitled to the full salary, really, and so he was asking to be reimbursed, and he brought a civil action. I was not representing him at the time. And lo and behold, the lawyer representing him got contact from the then Loretta Lynch Justice Department. And there were threats made. In fact, I have a couple of emails from that lawyer to my client, and one of them says, the government was taking a very harsh position that threatened both your reputation and liberty. And then another one said, you will recall, the government made serious threats sufficient to cause you to withdraw your civil complaint. Now, I'm going to talk to people about the NDA. You know what that is. Non-disclosure agreement. Lawyers deal with that all the time. The FBI made my client sign an NDA that he couldn't disclose anything about his undercover.
Why? Why?
work.
Victoria, we're almost out of time, but why wouldn't the Obama Justice Department want your client to testify before Congress and tell his story about what was happening with the bribery and extortion, all that was going on before the Uranium One deal was approved? Why?
Well, they would say that this criminal case hadn't taken place yet, but of course they prolonged it way past when it should have been done to 2014.
So they slow walked it. They slow walked it,
and they're still playing games like it's still open. So my client wants to go up to Congress to talk to them and tell them more, but I've got to get the FBI or this Justice Department to release him from the NDA.
Yeah, Sessions can do that with a stroke of a pen. Jeff Sessions can do that. He was asked about this. We'll play it when we come back. Victoria Tensing, thank you so much for those insights. It's a little complicated, but it's important for people to understand just what was going on. Loretta Lynch, Holder, Clinton, Obama, and Bill Clinton. Money going to the foundation, uranium sold to the Russians. It's as smelly and stinky as it gets. Oh, swing and a miss is bad news if you're in the baseball playoffs, but it's worse news for your hair. And you know, I've tried nearly every hair care product out there that's worth anything, and frankly, I've struck out every time. Until I finally found a product that really works. The Ovation Cell Therapy Treatment. So my hair went from easily breaking, when you brush it at night, especially if you have some knots in your hair after you shower, to really smooth and easy to style, so manageable, a thicker, stronger, healthier looking hair by Ovation. And if you want that type of Ovation hair, then you listen to what I say. Ovation hair is what I use. It's what I travel with. I don't use those hotel shampoos. Those are terrible for your hair. And Ovation hair is risk-free. The Ovation hair care products, all of them are fantastic, but I love the Cell Therapy by Ovation. That's my special bottle that I travel with. And the Ovation Nation is growing, hundreds of thousands of satisfied customers worldwide, and it's getting bigger and bigger every day. And I'm glad. I'm glad that you're listening to me. Some people even came up to me last night and said, I use Ovation. It was really funny at the event in Arizona. All you need to do is go to ovationhair.com and select Laura Ingraham in the survey at checkout, and you get a special new customer discount and a free shipping offer on top of that. So get details at ovationhair.com. Remember, select my name, Laura Ingraham, at checkout for your new customer discount. Remember, the free shipping offer ends soon at Ovation Hair. Laura, big meeting yesterday. The NFL owners all met, and the topic, of course, of conversation was on the players' discontent, declining revenues because of declining eyeballs watching NFL games. Once again, Monday Night Football's ratings in a slump, the audience shrinking, most people citing not a variety of entertainment choices or baseball playoffs. They're citing their discontent and disagreement with the NFL not requiring players to stand for the national anthem. After what we thought was going to be an ultimate decision by the NFL to require players to stand, because in the rule book, it is referenced as a responsibility of the players. Now it looks like the owners are afraid more of the players than they are of the fans. So the owners got together, and Roger Goodell came out and gave a statement yesterday, and he said this. Let's listen.
To work together with our players on issues of social justice. I would tell you that our players are men of great character. They have a very deep understanding and tremendous knowledge of the issues that are going on in all of our communities. And their commitment to addressing these issues is really admirable.
Did you get a commitment from the players that they will stand for the anthem? Did you ask for it?
We did not ask for that, so.
No, we don't ask for them to stand for the anthem. But they have tremendous knowledge. We have an NFL player who's going to join us in a moment, but tremendous knowledge on social justice? What?
Now, just last week, Goodell wrote a letter saying, we agree with our fans and the people who support the NFL that all players should stand to honor the national anthem and find another way to protest.
Requiring them to stand.
Well, and no penalties being exacted if they do kneel.
Well, I'll tell you who's going to deliver the penalties. The fans. That's going to continue. Oh, they made a big mistake. We don't care about your views on criminal justice reform.
What's that saying? The penalty is in the sin?
Joining us now, Ed Tandy McGlasson, former NFL offensive lineman for the Rams, Jets, Giants. Now he's a full-time pastor. He's author of the book, The Father You've Always Wanted. Oh, I love it. And he wrote an open letter to his NFL brethren, let's stand together as fathers for the children in our lives. And he joins us now. Ed, great to talk to you. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Laura. Great to be with you.
So it's a little interesting to hear Goodell say that the players have deep knowledge and all these incredible insights into social justice. I mean, I'm sure some of them do, but really, is this what football is now? It's an ongoing think tank conference on various complex domestic issues. I mean, it's an odd deal that we've seen develop over the last year or so in the NFL, and I'd love your insights.
Yeah, it's a really complicated issue with these guys because, one of in the op-ed piece that I wrote, I mean, one of the biggest dilemmas that we have in our culture is the absent dad. And, fathers are like the framing of a house, right? Moms are the artwork, the beauty. They got relationship in their bones. And without mothers, I mean, we wouldn't have as many professional athletes today. And yet dads are this framework, right? And when they're present and when they're blessing their kids, it creates inside of that child this sense of destiny, a sense of understanding. But when that's missing, it's amazing to me, when that's missing, how broken our culture is. And I think we're seeing that. I mean, when I played football, hi, Mom on the sideline was a reality that we all knew then, and that many of us were overachievers because we didn't have a lot of dads in our story. But today in the National Football League, I mean, according to National Center of Fathering, 20 million kids will go to bed tonight without a father in their story. And one of the things I wrote about in my piece, and I wanted to be really clear about with these guys, is to remind them that they're not just guys with a jersey on their back. They're not just an entertainer. To millions and millions of kids without dads, they're like father figures out there in that field. And so the way they stand up, the way they kneel, the way they dress, the way they spend their money, the way they treat the girls in their story, they're modeling for these kids that are they're desperate to be known. They're desperate to become somebody. And that's why it's so important for these guys to stand for the right things in their life.
What percentage of fathers are not present with their children, do you think, in the NFL? Do you have any statistics on that?
Well, I know that, when you break down all the different, racial kind of things, I know there's 20 million kids, according to National Center of Fathering. But, in my day, back years ago, I would say that, close to 30 to 40% of the guys on my team said hi, Mom on the sideline for a real reason. Today, I would venture a guess it's much, much higher. And see, when you don't have a dad in your story, without that, what's interesting, Laura, is that you would think that God would have given that job to moms of identity, because moms are always there. They're loving, they're building relationship, they're believing, they're praying, they know when their kids are coming and going in their life. But he gave that identity piece, that first kind of picture of who that child is, comes from the way the dad is there in their story. And when he's not present, it really wounds that kid. I mean, that's kind of why I've given the rest of my life to this whole idea of the blessing of the father. That's actually our website, blessingofthefather.com, to really teach people that your story doesn't have to end badly, and it's never too late to be a great dad, never too late to be a great mom.
Well, don't we think that instead of players lecturing America through their protest at the beginning of games, it's better to take care of business in your own house. I mean, I don't think most Americans they don't watch the NFL to get punditry on a particular issue, or I'm frankly not interested in what the O-line says on the Rams, what the O-line is saying about immigration, or what the D-line is saying about the stock market. I mean, that's not why we tune in. And yet this is what the fans are forced to grapple with day in and day out when they would just like to watch a football game. So I know your initiative is about fatherlessness. I would love to see the statistics. I have no idea what they are for both players who grew up without fathers and players who are not present with their children in a home. Raymond Arroyo is also with us.
Mr. McGleason, I mean, given what you're saying, and I think you're right, you're really onto something, particularly in the inner city and these at-risk communities that these players are purportedly kneeling over. Why aren't they being encouraged, and do you think it might be a good idea for the league to encourage them to spend more time in those communities as NFL players? Cameron Jordan, a Saint, did a literacy initiative yesterday. He went to two schools yesterday in New Orleans. Well, I tweeted out and said, we need more of this. Les needs more of this. Your thoughts?
You know what? I think you're absolutely right. And see that, by the way, on the news cycles, there's not a lot of people reporting those things, because I know a lot of friends of mine in the NFL who do great work in the city. But here's the rub of this is, God's put these guys in this public place, right? And so they have an opportunity to use it really for good in their life and not for bad. And because there's so many kids that are watching, and it is really true, right, Laura. We when somebody spends $100 for a football ticket to go into a stadium, they're not looking for a political moment. They want to root on their team. They're wearing the jersey of these guys, and the problem is right now people are taking off those jerseys because the guys who are wearing them on the field, they're misunderstanding and misrepresenting who they're really supposed to be out there. And see, I mean, it used to be that parents would say, boy, I wish my son could be like Roger Staubach. He was the first, he was my coach at the Naval Academy on my Pee Wee football team. I was his quarterback. And Roger, was one of those guys. And he, as a matter of fact, funny story, we were playing flag football, and on the very first play at Pee Wee football, I scored an 85-yard touchdown. And I ran back to the sideline, and Roger Staubach looks at me and goes, pretty impressive. He was a midshipman to Naval Academy. He said, but we don't tie our flags in a knot. So I tied my flag so they couldn't pull it out, right? And Roger said, we don't do that here. Go over to the referee and tell him that you did that. And I got a 15-yard penalty. And that moment in my life with this guy who became one of the finest human beings, and not only quarterback but human beings that we still have in our country, a real father, he really framed something for me. I remember just saying, I want to be like this guy. Well, we've lost that in the NFL right now, and it can be restored.
We're almost out of time. But I want to say, Ed, when we dipped into one of the games, I guess it was the Sunday night game. Was it Broncos, I think, on Sunday night? I dipped into it for a few moments, and, the players in the end zone were doing, or they were introducing the players at the beginning of the game, and everything's like, it's so much about entertainment now, and the players are doing kind of the dance and the rapper dance, and it's not just standing there looking like a man. And it's you have to do your signature dance or something. I don't like any of that. I find all of it kind of just yucky. And I find the manliness of an athlete who is a father. If you're married, you're a father, you're present with your family, you're volunteering in your community. We do need more of that. And it's the type of, Drew Brees or Bledsoe or any of these guys. These guys were great role models for kids. And Jerry Rice is another one, is a great role model. Joe Montana. I mean, there was a lot of these guys did amazing stuff, but I think they're wrecking it. They're wrecking it for I think they're wrecking it for the fans, and I think they're missing a big opportunity. Not everybody, because I think Raymond points out there's some players who are doing great work and in at-risk neighborhoods where it's a sad story for kids who have no father, have no role model. And the only role models they have are the gangbangers on the corner, the drug pushers on the on the block away from the school. That's all they have, and we got to do better than that. So it's very disturbing. Ed, I'd love to talk to you more. We have to take a break now, but I'd love to have a longer segment, perhaps an hour, with
I'd
you
love to.
that we're going to just tackle the issue of fatherhood and how important fathers are for both boys and girls, and the struggles of raising kids without a dad. I'm a single mom. I know it's hard. I mean, I'm blessed with 4 godfathers for all my kids, so I'm blessed with that. But it's difficult. And I'm someone who's very blessed financially, but it's a difficult deal, and it's not.
God's plan, Laura, has always been from the beginning the way He heals culture. The last couple of verses of the Old Testament, He says, "Before the great and coming day of the Lord, I will turn the hearts of fathers back to their kids." That's how we heal our story. That's how we heal America. That's how the world gets healed. Fathers come back home. It changes the whole thing.
Yeah, it's real men stepping up, especially when you have young kids. I mean, this is you got to be there for them. Ed, thank you so much. Ed Tanty McLeeson, former NFL O-line and for the Rams, and just amazing person, full-time pastor. We'll take a break on the Laura Ingraham Show. Close out this hour. What's happening in the Czech Republic that looks a little bit like Trump?